before we move on, I'd like to pause and look at space from a different angle. Beyond engineering and operations, space is also a place where people need to contemplate, to create, to laugh, to rest, and find meaning, often in unexpected ways. To explore this perspective, I'm pleased to invite Dr. Shahar Freddy Kislev, artist, to share a different way of thinking about what truly means to live in space.
Hey, thank you for having me. My name is Freddy. I'm an artist, and I ran an art school for the last few years. Can I have my speaker notes here? Okay, as most of you probably know, Eitan Stiba's visit to the ISS wasn't just a trip, but framed as a mission. He was joined by many scientific experiments and had an extremely tight schedule operating these experiments. What you might not know is that along with the scientific experiments, a handful of art experiments were also sent. These experiments were part of the AX1 art project in which a few artists suggested projects that can live interestingly on board the International Space Station. Some of the projects were speculative and conceptual, others were videos. I want to briefly, and hopefully enjoyably, show you a project I did which is tangible and another project that didn't take shape. This is a space ring, a solid gold ring meant to be worn in outer space. It has an inscription. This ring was in outer space on April 2022 on the inner shank. The idea was that on Earth, with the pull of the ground, the ring would look like this, but that in outer space, it will have these tentacles grow out of it like a snail, right? These will gently float on the astronaut's finger and give a constant, non-intrusive reminder of microgravity. Small wonder. Here are some preparatory sketches from the design process. We wanted to have an interesting kind of lunar surface to the thing. And here's a simulation we did for the float of the tendrils moving around gently like underwater reef. Ta-da! Now, it turns out that wasn't far from how it actually moved around in space. Here's Eitan on board the International Space Station, wearing his ring and constantly being reminded of the fact that he is actually in outer space. It's a space bling, a sculpture you wear on your body, on your person, and what I believe to be the first piece of space jewelry in history. I want to mention that 26 years ago, a couple of artists working with biology did a project called Semi-Living Steak, in which they grew a steak in a lab. Very small and probably only partially edible. This was the world's first piece of artificial meat. 20 years later, the market for cultured meat has become an actual thing and is expected to reach $95 billion by 2030. Now, if this was the case for cultivated meat, who can say what the future holds for space jewelry? If you want to read more about the space ring and a short history of art in outer space, there's a recent book by a scholar from the Royal College called Art in Orbit with a chapter on the ring. You can read all about it if you want to. Finally, I want to mention in brief a different project I developed that didn't make it to space, but I think still has merit as an idea. When you dig into astronaut videos on YouTube, you see that astronauts try to come up with games that make use of microgravity to occupy themselves in space. Here's a famous one. An astronaut playing conceptual water ping pong. Now, I originally wanted to send Eitan not with the world's first piece of space jewelry, but with the world's first space game. This is an early test for space billiards. A billiards game for outer space where the balls don't roll on a table but float in a three-dimensional space and the pockets are organized along the edges of a box. I even designed and manufactured initial tests for the net. Though this proved difficult to actualize, I find the idea interesting and compelling, and so for this conference, we developed a working, playable prototype of the space billiards game. It works nicely and is quite enjoyable. You can try it yourself in the foyer. It's on the second floor. It's a bit hidden, but if you want, you can try it. If time allowed, I would have challenged Eitan. You wanna? I would have challenged you to a game of space billiards. Well, maybe I don't have time. Yeah, okay. Thank you for your attention to these matters.